Okay, first of all, I would like to congratulate Austin FC, his staff, and his players to reaching the West Conference final. And secondly, I would like to to say that if we go back at the beginning of the year, after the disappointment of the last season, and every one of you, pretty sure, had a lot of doubts about what this team could do this year. What I want to say, like, I feel really, really proud of my players, my staff, the entire front office and the club for all the hard work that they've done throughout the year that put us in a position to be fighting for be in the Western Conference final. We couldn't do it. We got short in the first half. We didn't show what we are able to do. In the second half, we were what we are, right? A brave team, an aggressive team, and we had the chances to change a little the score. We got short there in the chances that we had. But I want to send a positive message from the entire season that this team has done. We're disappointed today, but we learn to come stronger for the next season.
Hey, welcome everyone to Big D After Dark. Jose is joining us here in just a moment as we get started here, and we feel the sadness from FC Dallas head coach Nico Estevez after the disappointing result from the semifinal yesterday, as FC Dallas is down 2-1 by our hated rival Austin FC. Tough night, tough evening for FC Dallas fans. We had that glimmer of hope with an Alan Velasco goal, but in the end, it was not a great start for FC Dallas in that first half. They had to make some changes. They certainly rebounded and looked much stronger in the second half, but not enough. Unfortunately, not enough gas in the tank. A lot to learn, though, as we think about this season, and a lot to be thankful for and be proud of. In fact, here comes Jose right now. Let me get you in, Jose. Yeah, so we started out with sad Nico, though he's proud of his guys. We've got some comments already flowing in. We appreciate you all watching tonight. Welcome to Big D After Dark. I'm Nathan. This is Jose. We'll get started. Ishmael may join us later. I don't know his status tonight, but hey, a tough one. A tough evening. Not the way we wanted it to go. Congrats to Austin FC taking care of things at home. It's always tough. It's always tough. It's always tough to these matches when the things don't go your way. Hey Ben, hey Hoach. As we were kind of leading the show with just that slow start. We've seen it hurt FC Dallas before. Nico referenced it. They made adjustments, got stronger as the half wore. Velasco got that crucial goal to at least get them back in the game, but ultimately that second goal did not come. So your thoughts on FC Dallas's loss last night at Austin FC, Jose?
Tactics. I don't think anybody's happy with that Nico opted to play a cautious defensive setup in the first half. Basically, the game plan was to absorb the pressure and ride out the first half and then put on the pressure second half. Of course, that works if you can keep it scoreless. But giving up those two goals and just two goals on the road, that's really tough to come back from. And especially since a guy like Paxton was clearly not 100%. He was out there. He was battling. The minutes he did play, but you could tell that he was hobbled. And Hara, have we ever seen a more complete half from that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, this season, he was inspiring. I kudos to him. He played his heart out. He gave the team what they were lacking in the first half, which was fight, which was bite, which was the ability to just cause havoc. That was Hara legging it out on a flank like he was a winger on several occasions, and I was there for it. I was like, wow. He wasn't going very fast, but he was going just as fast as the center back. So I was like, good grief, Hara did used to play wing once upon a time, and he flashed it here and there. It was great.
Yeah, and I agree, Hoach, with the comments here that Cervania and Quinone in the same lineup. That may have been health issues, and there. I don't think anyone asked Nico about that after the game. If that was certainly with Paxton, it played a role, but yeah, Cervania just didn't look great in this game. There was a comment from Nico, I didn't pull it up, but where he said, and it probably contributed to Cervania's departure, but he just said guys were not staying disciplined in their roles, and their movement, it just wasn't necessary. Some of the places they were going to was not where they needed to be, and you kind of wonder about their midfield, which was really just poor in the first half. But not, I mean, the whole team was pretty, you know.
But that's one of the knocks on Cervania is that he has games like this where he covers a lot of ground, sure, like a box to box, but it's undisciplined. It's all over the place. It's not part of the game plan. So I mean, he does hustle, but is it within the game plan? Does it hurt the team? I think it does. Sometimes, not always. In this game, it did, and that was rolling the dice. I mean, we were all like, hey, they should have started Siki. Siki's the same thing as Cervania. I mean, yes, he's great going forward, but again, another inconsistent player who can also hurt you. He hustles to make up for his mistakes, but he's in the same boat as Cervania. In all honesty, very inconsistent players, both of them, and that's youth, and I mean, Cervania has to outgrow that at some point. But it was a tough ask. We all expected Paxton to start. He gets injured, and Cervania goes from,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, basically being a guy who'd probably come off the bench to now he's starting, and
Yeah, anyone
sadly
you
he didn't come
slot in
through.
there, it's a roll of the dice, unless you change your formation or something. And even then it would be a little bit different for this team. They haven't been playing in a different formation, so
And I know people are coming down on Quignon, but starting Quignon was part of the game plan. If you're going to play defensive, absorb type defense, you want Quignon out there, and okay, it didn't pan out. So, like I said, again, this is on Nico. Nico opted to play it safe in the first half, and that hurt the team. I think we all would have wished for him to come out fighting in the first half, and we certainly saw that from Austin. I mean, Austin came out and they were flying all cylinders. I would love to have seen Dallas match them in the first half. They didn't. They finally brought the fight in the second half, but it was too little, too late.
mm-hmm.
And it's that lack of having, uh, uh, Ben asked, in our last podcast, who are you bringing off the bench to be that scorer? And that was just it. We didn't have an option, a consistent scorer that could come off the bench. Hara was great for what he was asked to do, but we didn't have that guy off the bench that was going to terrorize them. And I mean, O'Brien tried. Good grief, he had the best chance to tie it up, and that would have been sensational, but it wasn't to be. And it's heartbreaking, my man.
It is. It is heartbreaking, and it's just a tough one. Yeah, Siki. I mean, in retrospect, yeah, maybe you start Siki instead. But I think Nico maybe Nico got too much in his head about what he thought he was going to be able to do against this team, and maybe they were watching to see what RSL did, but you knew that Austin was going to come out with a different intensity than they did against RSL, and they preached that all week. So you had to rethink that a bit.
But it's the game plan. Again, we're talking about you want to play defensively, so you play Quignon, you play Cervania, you play at times. It looked like we had two defensive mids back there at times. I'm sure that's what Nico didn't want, but that's what we're seeing. And even Jesus, is way back there at times.
Yeah.
So I think if you look at the other potential game plan is you start Siki, you start Cirio, and you go more aggressive. And I think the idea was, yeah, if we do that, we may score a goal, but we probably allow 2 goals in the first half. which they did anyway. And that's, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, hindsight's 2020, but it would have been great if they would have put out uh, a fighting, attacking first team in the first half, and
Mm-hmm.
then we wouldn't be saying, hey, it sucks that we gave up 2 goals, because at least you would have had a team that could have at least put a goal or two in the first half in return. It would have been a hectic game, and clearly Nico was, his Spanish upbringing, Spanish, tactical upbringing wasn't gonna allow him to do that, and it's played off well in the regular season, but not in the playoffs. And Nico will learn from this. He is after all a rookie coach in his first playoffs, and he was bound to make mistakes.
Well, we'll keep the comments coming. Let's commiserate together. We're gonna listen to some more post game comments, and just because it gives us a sense of just we see how these players felt after this, and even beginning to think about the bigger picture too, which was a season where we didn't expect necessarily to be here. Not a lot of people would have picked us, maybe on that first round playoff loss at best, but. So there's positives definitely to take from this season. Let's go ahead and hear from Brandon Cervania and his post-game thoughts.
Brandon, tough result, not the way you guys wanted the season to end. Do you feel like it was just maybe a slow start to the game, that hard to pull yourself out of it?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't play how we know how to play. So that's on us. It's a playoff game, and you can't afford to have a slow start in any of these games, because everyone's great competition, and they're going to take advantage of it. So, yeah.
Looking at how last season ended, how this season ended, in terms of the progress, what was it like being part of this team and making this run?
Yeah, obviously it's a great group of guys, and like you said, we made progress from last year. It still hurts because we know that we could have, gone further than we did, but we just got to learn from what we did this year, and keep progressing from last year to this year, and then next year be even better.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and Brandon, I think it probably hits heavy on his shoulders just because he was, subbed off at the half. No, he probably didn't put his best 45 minutes shift in there in a Dallas jersey. A lot of question marks, I think, about him the coming season and kind of what the future is for a player like that, who's certainly had a lot of experience now. He's an MLS veteran, but hasn't quite locked down that starting spot. He's kind of had an uneven year, so there'll be a lot of questions about what's best for him or where he wants to be, and how FC Dallas rates him. But tough way to certainly to in the season with the belief that this team could have gone farther. I don't think it's just a belief. I think we know that this team could have gone farther.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we're all basically, we're used to being disappointed, I guess, especially Dallas fans. But it's because this team gave us hope. It's like, hey, we saw it. We could see the potential there for this team to go further, and that's what hurts. What hurts is man, this team's good enough to beat Austin, and that they failed to do it. That just hurts, especially because those guys are just insufferable. And I know in the comments people are like, "Oh, I hope Austin gets this guy." No, Austin needs to lose, man. Those guys are gonna be insufferable as is. I don't need them getting any more insufferable than that.
Yeah, I mean, as insufferable as this like fake monster taco that was served there.
Which popped up after the FC Dallas Monster Taco. So it's like coincidence. I don't think so.
Nonsense stuff. Well, let's keep it going. Let's listen to one more post game conversation. This time with the captain of the team, Matt Hedges. Let's see how he reacts to this loss.
What are the emotions right now? Frustration. I mean, the first half we didn't look ready. We didn't come out like we were ready. We didn't come out with intensity, and it showed. It showed and you can't win playoff games playing a one half. So that's kind of the story of the game.
Is there something you think was the reason behind that, or any was it pressure? What was it exactly that?
Honestly, I'm not sure. But, I mean, we seemed like we were ready up until the first whistle, and from there, I don't know what happened, but you could just see that our intensity wasn't where it needed to be, and it's the difference between the first half and the second half was night and day. You just saw that we pushed the game, and why we needed to be doing that the whole game.
In the second half, gotta get a little creative with some formations, some changes, guys in positions they don't usually get in, and even so, you guys still control the half, get one goal. What was the difference? What did it feel like on the field as you're pushing to try and chase the game?
Urgency. I mean, we need the urgency that wasn't there in the first half. I mean, why we needed to do that when it was 0-0? Now we wait until it was 2-0 to start pressuring, to start playing the ball, getting behind, all those things that if we don't wait until the second half to start doing all those things, we have a good chance to win.
It might be too early to ask this, but you've been a part of this team for a really long time. You've been part of these tough moments for a long time. What's the kind of feeling about the 2022 season as you look back and then look forward to 2023?
It's positive in a sense that the improvement from last year was substantial. I mean, we were a much better team, but frustration because we were definitely capable of winning that type of game today, by the way we played before. So it was good that we're here, improving from last year, but frustrating that we could have done much better today.
Yeah, captain. He's the word on the street too is when you interview Matt Hedges, he just doesn't give you a lot. He doesn't really, he's just kind of to the point, but you could see
he gave a lot that time though.
But frustration of a professional who's been there and knows how close it can be, the razor thin line, and there's just something.
And
let's
not forget he's getting up there in age, so his window is closing, and he has to know that he has to feel it. He has to feel it that window for him to get an MLS Cup is slowly closing on him.
It is. Here's another comment from Hoch here. Frustration from the team and the lack of urgency. We all saw it. So is that from the coach's instructions or players not performing their duties? Yeah, it's a good question.
It's both, It's there's such a thing as setting your team up to fail, And if the game plan was absorb, play defense, absorb, keep it 0-0, that, considering how Austin was in the front foot from the get-go, that was just a terrible recipe for this particular match, especially since that Austin's capable of scoring, So we said it before when we were making our predictions. There were going to be goals in this match, and Dallas didn't embrace that. They didn't embrace that in the first half. They should have embraced it, and they should have just acknowledged that, hey, what's the point in sitting back and playing defense when there's going to be goals? Then we need to basically match that, and they didn't. They didn't, like they said, they got caught flat-footed, and it didn't help that they were making mistake after mistake. Even before the goals, they were making, and I think that may have also led to a bit of panic, like not an all-out panic, but at least like whoa, we need to step back and catch our breath and slow things down, and that also didn't help.
Yeah, it did seem like their hope was. Especially with the amount of long balls that we see that tried to go over the top, which just did not work. It just didn't work against Austin.
No.
And maybe they hoped it would, and maybe it was just unlucky. But I think that they did hope to absorb and hit him on the counter early on. That was the game plan, hoping you get a goal. But it just didn't work. It didn't work either because of the delivery from the players or the movement of those guys running on. I mean, I think Paul Arriola didn't really particularly have a great game in this one. I'm sure he's exhausted. It's been a long season. He's had his ups and downs. I think, Jesus, it was certainly not Jesus' best game. He was active, but the deeper he got, it just didn't help the team. Yeah.
We've seen that, right? He drops so deep that he takes himself. And I mean, he's fast. We forget that he's supposed to be one of the fastest players in MLS. And it's that confidence that he's going to be able to get there that he has, but that can also hurt you, especially when teams are set up to basically keep you from doing that, and Austin did a good job of basically keeping Jesus out, and we have to admit that Jesus finished in a slump at the end of the season. When's the last time he scored a goal?
Yeah.
It's been a while, and it's come back to hurt the team,
I agree. And tough night, Tomasi. You give up that first set piece goal, that corner kick, which is just a mistake. It was just just a comedy of errors that kind of fell together, which happens in soccer. But and then you give up the sort of the counterattack goal, and Jerisi just puts it away like a professional.
And
Like
that's just in that first goal, though, that scrappiness. That's what this team was lacking. Austin brought it. Austin brought the intensity. They brought the scrappiness, and they scraped and scrapped and managed, figured out a way to get that first goal. And that's what Dallas was lacking. It's like you saw it when Hara entered. He brought that fire. He brought that passion. That was lacking in the first half. And like I said, Austin had it from the get go. And like I just said, we shouldn't have to wait till we're down 2-0 to find that spark.
Yeah.
And that also brings you into question. Does FC Dallas truly see Austin as a rival that you can't get up for them? Is that complacency saying, hey, these guys have never beaten us, they're not going to beat us, and that's it's like I think we were all dreading. We're like, it's going to suck if our first loss to these guys is in the playoffs, and they,
yeah,
nightmares come true.
And the playoffs are a different beast. Well, Christian, thanks for watching, Christian. I was bringing up this behind the scenes, but I worry about Jesus' mentality. He was too down on himself for not hitting the scoring record. He did certainly place a lot of pressure on himself. It's interesting to read some of the pieces that have gone up about it. That he started seeing a sports psychologist and things, and started working on his mentality. So, I appreciate that he put a lot of pressure on himself, and I appreciate that hunger. Yeah, I just did. Yeah, I hope it didn't weigh too much on him, and he tried to do too much. That's a little bit of my fear in this game, is that some. Maybe Nico alluded to it. I didn't have that clip up, but where he just said folks were not staying disciplined, and so they're moving into spaces, and it pulled the team off, and it opened up gaps and that kinds of things. So maybe Cervania and Jesus and these guys went in thinking, I've got to be the hero, and in the moment you just needed to stay disciplined, adjust to the game, and you get caught out of position, you get trying to do too much, and Austin punishes you. But it's tough. Tough game for Tomasi. It was not probably his best game. So there's certainly things that we look back and we can say maybe we learned something about the team. But
I also want to point out that it wasn't Velasco's best game until he got that goal. And that sort of, he wasn't actually having a good game. His touches were just too strong. He was having trouble controlling the ball. He was having trouble dribbling. I'm not saying he had a bad game up until he scored a goal, but he was having basically a roller coaster type of game where he was making bad. I mean, let's face it, his giveaway resulted in the game-winning goal, and he did make up for it by getting another goal, but
Right.
his performance overall was up and down and not consistent. And since we're talking Velasco, you gotta wonder why Nico even took him off the field. I mean, you take him off the field, and then you get this set piece immediately afterwards, where you're like, would have been nice to have Velasco for that set piece, because let's face it, your best set piece takers, Velasco's one of them, and you think you'd want him at the end of the game when you're basically trying to get corners and set pieces. Why take off one of your best set piece takers? I didn't get that one. That's has me scratching my head, in all honesty.
But it was likely due to his fitness. It was like wanting not to aggravate. But it is the final game. It's kind
the
of a
final
strange
game of the season. I mean, he's gonna have the whole off season
yeah.
to recover, my man.
Yeah, it is a tough one. It is a tough one. And Jesus wasn't really on point with his service either. It's just it's really, Jesus had a couple of chances that I think were solid, kind of near just inside the top of the box kind of a place, and he just mishit them. Maybe they weren't as strong as we thought on watching live, but you would hope it at least puts them on frame and makes the keeper save. But hey, positives. Alan Velasco grew into the game, and for a young player, that's huge. We can build from that. And I think it just bodes well for this next season. And Martin Paz, did what he could. Certainly
made
first
some
two
excellent saves.
he
He
made
did make
some
some
excellent saves. First two goals, there wasn't a whole lot I think that he could have done, but he kept the team in it, prevented that third goal from going in because Austin still had those chances. So a lot of things to learn certainly from this, some positives to take away, but there'll be a lot of question marks as well.
I also want to add that the best cross of the night came from Nanu, who we've all been saying can't cross if his life depended on it, and there he goes, second game in a row where he does something where we're like, where was that all season, you know? But
And
in
the
in the
craziness.
playoffs, Nanu showed his best form, and I don't think he'll be back, but
Yeah.
but he can definitely, if he can bottle that and take it to wherever he's going, that would have been great to have all year long.
And Hyder O'Brien as an emergency right back, right wing back, whatever. Not anything we had on our FC Dallas bingo card for the season.
And he did a decent job.
Yeah, he got into some dangerous spots. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for FC Dallas fans. We'll begin to look toward the next season. Of course, on BigDSoccer.com, we're going to be starting to move into silly season and rumors, looking for rumors and news about what FC Dallas is going to do. And probably in these next couple of days, FC Dallas will announce roster decisions, so we'll kind of find out who's going to be departing, who they're going to pick up options for, some of those kinds of conversations that will begin.
I'm going to predict that this is going to be a pretty wild offseason. I'm expecting some really out there trades and stuff like that to happen, because as much as in my heart, if you asked me to make a prediction, I would say, oh, these players are staying. There's no way that, these players are going. And I've said that behind the scenes, I don't think any of the homegrowns are going anywhere. Manjom will be back, and Ahmed Kahar and all these guys. But the truth is, the bottom line is that these guys are not Sonoda's guys. They may be homegrowns. And Sonoda, after having this huge offseason, may be emboldened, and he could, for all we know, have a mandate from Dan Hunt saying, get us to that next level. What's it going to take? And he could say, hey, we love all these kids. We love all these. But we need to start. If they're not pushing for a starting job, they got to go. Mm-hmm. We need to clear them. And so the question is, it comes down to money. I don't think they'll let go of some of these HGs, because we're going to need net depth next year with Leagues Cup and the U.S. Open Cup, and they don't take up a lot of money, which supposedly we ran out of, which is hard to believe this year.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to free up some money somewhere, and having those homegrowns that barely cost you a penny on the roster. I mean, you just can't beat that. And they're hard to get rid of a player like that, to bring in a guy that's gonna, you're gonna pay 2 or 3 times that amount and may still not play. So that's the question. But I think Sonota's emboldened, and I don't think we have as much wiggle room as we'd like. So how do you do that? Trades. I mean, I'll give you an example of a trade that I would not be surprised. Isaiah Parker. Do you realize he's excellent trade bait? You got a guy who's a GAM guy, so he's not costing anything. He was a first round pick, and he's too good for North Texas at the end of the season, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's good enough for MLS. What if you dangle him in front of St. Louis for next season and go, hey, St. Louis kid, he's already spent a full year in the reserves. You guys have played against him. You know what he's got. He's ready to take that next step. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that they're going to trade him, but I'm just saying there's trade bait available on this roster if you're willing to make trades. And I think a team that finished third in the West, I think there's teams that are struggling. They're going to say, hey, we could use some of your players, So that's what I'm thinking. I'm calling it right now. I'm expecting some pretty out of the blue trades. Okay. Like who saw Hollingshead getting traded last year?
Right.
Something like that. I would not be surprised if that's what happens.
But yeah, in this offseason, Ben, we had Paz come in, we had Velasco, of course, and Farfan,
And Areola.
and Ariola. That's right. So
And those four, and that's not including Nanu. And of course later on Leggett. I mean, there was some serious moves. And honestly, I think Nanu's probably the only one that that we can think of that didn't pan out. But he wasn't a complete disaster.
Mm-hmm.
He just, you know, he was just not as good as we thought he'd be. He just couldn't beat out Tuamasi, and some of that had to do with Tuamasi upping his game. So
Sure.
so even
Which
though
is
we
what
still
you
think
want,
we
what
could
this
do better,
team wants.
even though we still think we can do better at right back, Tuamasi did up his play from last season and beat out Nanu.
So this is something we did talk about, Christian, and I'm actually going to send an email to FC Dallas media folks and just kind of see if they'll confirm that Hara is signed until the summer. I think we're hearing that
Yes.
that lines up with when his contract ended. He was signed on a free transfer, and if so, it does limit the team. Although I think there are options. I think the team could certainly cut him. They could decide to do that and just eat whatever is remaining on his salary. Maybe a team wants to sign him for free, and it's and that's possible too. I mean, I'm sure Hara has some value somewhere, to maybe back in Argentina or something. Or maybe they say, hey, look, we want you around this year, but get us, we'll spread out your remaining salary over the year, and it's you're now a TAM player, kind of a thing. It wouldn't be my ideal, but if Jesus is gone over the winter, if something like that happens, you'd have some continuity and some veteran leadership there. But there's some scenarios. I think
I don't think they're going to do anything with him. Knowing Dan Hunt, knowing that's his guy, I'm afraid Hara isn't going anywhere till his contract's up. They're going to write him out, but that could be a blessing in disguise. I mean, if Jesus doesn't go anywhere, and let's face it, we had two DPs in him and Velasco, and we did just great. So if you keep your attack intact, Areola, Velasco, Jesus, and you already got Leggett and Paxton, and you figure out your DM, this team's in great shape. So Hara actually, his contract being up, in the summer, that frees up a DP spot right when you need him. I mean, who's your next Leggett? Who's the next guy your next big name you're gonna bring in the summer? That, it would be nice to have the team winning. Let's say like they were this year. Let's say they're 3 or 4 seed, and not need a player, and suddenly have a free DP spot where you go, okay, we can go get somebody that can come in, and now we have riches, which is something that we see other teams do, like LAFC and some of these, where you're like, how can they afford all these guys? It would be nice. That's what the position Dallas would be in next year if they just write out the Hara come summer, and if the team's doing good, suddenly you free up a DP spot, and you're like, okay, hey, we can bring somebody in.
But my issue with that, I mean, I think you're right, Jose. I think it's fine, but my issue is that, what if Hara, scores some goals? What if he finds some useful tweak, and he, and then you don't want to let him go, What if, it just upsets the teams? I mean, it's a little awkward to cut a guy in the middle of the season, but not unheard of. So
it's common. I mean, it's common. Let's face it. Because of the whole Liga MX and stuff, it's ideal for a guy like Hara to leave in the summer. The problem isn't so much losing Hara. It's you got that's one less Argentinian on the team, and that's, hey, like you said, that could hurt the balance in the locker room.
Yeah, and we know Kamungo's going to be around, whether he rates more as a winger with Nico, I think, which probably makes more sense. But the team is definitely going to need to address some striker depth, or someone to either complement Jesus or to push Jesus, or there's just
Mulatto.
Mulatto is one of those guys, but still, he's going to be young.
I've always been high on Mulatto. That guy is his raw athleticism and his raw strength. I mean, the guy is just a beast, and he is a guy who when he didn't play for North Texas, you immediately noticed he wasn't there. I mean, that's how good this guy was. And he's raw and sure, but he is a true uh, a true nine, and it would give you a guy that, okay, maybe I'm not saying he's going to come in and score 10 goals or anything like that, but it would give you that guy that by the end of the season could be scoring goals. So I think he's a guy who's you've seen his trajectory climbing and climbing and climbing, and the fact that Bayern has first dibs on if Dallas wants to sell him tells you what a lot of
Yeah,
teams think about this kid.
yeah.
And he was with the Columbia U20s, by the way, where he scored. I believe he scored a goal. I think he did in was it the bronze game or the yeah. So I mean, wow, this kid's trajectory right now is on the up and up, and FC Dallas loves themselves some South American young talent. So, but I'm not saying he's an answer. And mind you, I think Jesus was really upset because I think he knows he's not coming back. And here's the difference between him and what we've seen with previous FC Dallas guys. I'm talking about Reynolds. I'm talking about Pepe. I'm talking about Kennan, where they went where the money was best and not necessarily their best fit for them. Jesus can't do that. Jesus is a false nine, and it's not like every team uses a false nine. There's only so many teams out there that are interested in what he brings to the table. And I'm talking about teams that want to play him as a false nine as opposed to convert him to an attacking mid or something like that. There's only so many teams, but the teams that do play that style, I bet you they have him circled and say, okay, we want him and we're gonna get him. And I'm not saying they're gonna offer 20 million. I'm saying Jesus will probably go for a lot less, and he's hopefully he's seen from the other players that, hey, it matters where I go. Go to a team that says, hey, we're not challengers, or maybe we're not going to pay you the biggest amount, but we're going to make you our lightning rod, the guy that we're going to come through, and that's what he needs to do, even if it's in Belgium or the Netherlands or something like that. And I think that's what's going to happen with Jesus. I think Jesus knows he's his shot at his record are gone. Not because necessarily he's played his last season with FC Dallas, but I think he's played his last full season with FC Dallas, because if he's not gone this winter, he'll be gone in the summer.
Well, let's pace ourselves, everybody. We got a long off season. We have a lot of time to discuss these kinds of things and get into like which players we would part with are expendable. And remember, like even this just today, just being reminded that Justin Che is still under contract with FC Dallas. He's on loan. He could get purchased. So
it's Dante Sealy.
Yeah, I mean, so there's some X factors out there. I mean, if Che came back, not that I'm saying he will, but you could argue like, man, FC Dallas would not be in a bad place with 4 center backs on the roster that could all push each other. But there's a lot of scenarios that could go either way and trades that could happen, and we're gonna have to see starting sometime this week when those initial player decisions come out.
And I know a lot of people are saying that Che isn't coming back, but that's not the right thing. You should be asking yourself, what's it going to take to bring him back? What's it going to take to bring Justin Che back and keep him at least for a full season? And there's 2 things. One, we still have a U21 initiative spot available. Giving it to a homegrown kid would be awesome. 2, I think he would expect to be a starter. I think he would say, Justin Che would say, hey, I want either Martinez spots or Hedges spot, That's what it's going to take. Make me your starter. I'm playing, in Germany. I'm on the cusp. I can be your next big sell to Europe. But if you want me, you're gonna have to start me. And I'm just telling you, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I'm saying that's probably what it's gonna take is a U21 initiative and at least a rotating start where he's given, uh, and how exciting would that be? I mean, if next season you've got Tafari and Justin Shea basically as your two guys that are rotating with Martinez and Hedges.
Mm-hmm. It'd be a nice thing to deal with. Now, Christian, to your comment, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the team, ideally, my bright scenario that I'm gonna push, though this probably won't happen just because who knows, but is that Kellen Acosta, I believe his contract is up at the end of the season. LAFC is going to have a log jam there, but you say, hey, Kellen, we'll make you a DP. Come and be our starting defensive mid, which keeps him in that system that fits the USMNT. I mean, I don't know if Berhalter's going to be there long term or whatever, but Kellen could do well there. Fits, but a DP where you can buy him down, and then you still have that slot, and you go out and get that attacking player. So you sort of address a couple of needs because you might be getting that attacking player on a striker, and that's what you might need to go get. But there are other areas too, I think that the team could look at.
It sounds great, but the problem with that scenario is Kellen is the one guy that people used to say that Dallas doesn't let go of their players to Europe. Kellen is the one guy that Dallas failed to move to Europe, and that hit him pretty hard, and you have to wonder if there's still a little some bridges to be mended there before that's even possible, and maybe a DP, but I have a feeling that given a chance and the fact that he's been playing with the U.S. men's national team and he can get that European passport, I wouldn't be surprised if Acosta says, "Hey, I'm just gonna go on a free and go to Europe and go try out for some teams." I have a pedigree. I may be over the age for some teams, but there's gonna be some mid-table teams out there that will be more than happy to give me a shot.
Yeah, you're right, and he'll have flexibility, and if LAFC can win the championship, there'll be pressure, I think, to retain some of these guys and. Who knows? But we'll just see. There's a lot of scenarios there, but he's one name that would be fun to have. And
also, is he eligible now to be a free agent? By the way,
that'll be a good question. I'll have to look that up
because he's got to be getting up there. He should be eligible to be a free agent, which basically means he'll be able to go where he wants to go. So whether it's Dallas or maybe he wants to go play for Philadelphia Union or
right.
Montreal, who knows? I think if he's a free agent, he's going to be a hot commodity, and maybe you're right. Maybe it will take a DP contract to acquire services, and who knows if Dallas would be interested in that or not. We need a 6 though, and you got to ask yourself, is Kellen that 6?
Yeah, he may not be. He may not be what Nico wants, but he's just an option within the league that you could go and explore, and it will be available.
And I think those Nico gives you a chance to get those USMNT guys that are on the cusp or are looking to stay within striking distance, and I think Kellen fits that profile. So I hope there's no hard, animosity between Kellen and the team, because I think don't.
Grezzo. Yeah, I mean,
Grezzo would have been that 6. Yeah, it's Grezzo, who's been balling, since he left Dallas, and now anyway.
Yeah. Well, hey, one more bit of news before we get out, and I hate that I don't want us to close necessarily with this, but I do think it's a fascinating little thing here. A little rumor is that. From Tom Bogert and Sam Stejskal, that Ben Olsen, former DC United, longtime DC United manager, has interviewed for the Houston Dynamo job. Also, Hugo Perez, former FC Dallas alum, who there was rumors that he might have been in the mix for the FC Dallas job, but I don't know that was ever confirmed. But yeah,
That all just but confirms that it's going to be Hugo Perez, isn't it? Because I mean, isn't Houston going out of their way to like pick up every former FC Dallas player personnel they can get their hands on? I mean, I
yeah.
would not be
Ben's
stunned if it's Perez.
from what I understand is that Ben Olsen was a well-respected guy, and he was a player's coach. He certainly got a lot out of his guys, had good relationship. He knew what it was like as a longtime player in MLS and stuff. But, I also think those teams that he coached, he had good years and some success, but at the same time, he also had those times where it was just like, it was just a revolving door of players, and it just wasn't ever quite working. It would go through these slumps, and he would sort of somehow save his job. I don't know that that's what Houston wants to go, but it may be better, someone more experienced than what Paulo Nagamura offered,
Man, they need to stick to their interim coach. I mean, that guy is basically, Houston's version of Lucci, except with some actual managerial experience in his belt. That guy, he knows that system, knows those players, and the team actually played best under his interimship, and the fact that if they don't give him the managerial job, it just shows you what a train wreck Houston is, because you've got your guy right there under your nose. Give him the job. Otherwise, Houston's going to Houston, and we'll see you guys, at the bottom of the table again next year. I don't care who you bring in. That team is dysfunctional. You got the one guy that actually knows the players, knows the system, and if he can't get the managerial job, shame on you.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and it'll be interesting to watch to see kind of how that unfolds. But to our buddy Hoach there, look, nothing wrong with FC Dallas going young and developing players, and especially, I mean, we have talent to develop, and I think they should focus on that, continue to focus on that, but we'll see how they balance that out, and we'll see if there are any of these guys who end up departing.
But here's the thing, though, is I think we saw Dallas take a step forward and away from the play the kids this year, and I don't know how you go back to that. Seeing how it's panned out,
I just think it's more balanced. They were more balanced this year, and they just
it's
knew...
more balanced. But I'm just saying, they're gonna go out and they're gonna try to find the next Leggett. They're gonna try the next Areola, and I'm not saying that they're completely going away from play the kids, but I'm just saying some of the players that are going to be gone next year are very likely players like Elmet Gahar, Munjoma, and stuff like that. I'm not saying they will, but they're not going to get replaced by younger players. They're probably going to get replaced by MLS veteran players, who are in their 25, 26, 27. And I think that's what we're seeing from this team is they see that they are several pieces away from being a true MLS Cup contender. And when that window opens, you kind of go through it. And I think that's what's going to happen. I expect Dallas to make moves as a contender, and that means adding veteran players.
Okay. No,
we're not used to
I
it
think
around
I
here.
agree.
We're not used to that, but I suspect that that's the way it's going to go. Unless, don't get me wrong, FC Dallas isn't going to pass up on another prodigy, Velasco type player if they can get their hands on him. But that's just in the team's DNA. So I'm not saying they're 100% getting away from that, but I'm just saying you see what this team needs, and having a guy who's, say, 8-year MLS veteran starting at midfield next to Leggett when Paxton's injured, that's what you want. That's what you want, as opposed to, hey, we got some homegrown kids that know the system, but they're very inconsistent.
And I think that's where I see and I think what we're seeing the move to, and I think even the North Texas letting go of Ka is still trying, hey, how do we get this all? All right, Todd corrected us here. Hugo Perez never played for Dallas. Thank you. Is that
I think he was like, I think where we got confused is he was connected to the FC Dallas position,
Yeah.
He lobbied for it, if I remember correctly. But yeah, no, you're right.
Good.
Our
Thanks,
bad.
Todd. Thanks for
But
clarifying.
I think North Texas is going younger next year. I said this before. And it has nothing to do with Ka. Forget Ka. It's the fact that MLS Next Pro is a step like a half step below USL League One, and it's not. If you take the 11 best MLS Next Pros teams and play them against the 11 USL League One teams, I think that's a pretty fair fight. But it's the rest of the teams in MLS Next Pro that are total garbage. So you don't have tough games week in, week out. You have a good tough match. You play Houston, and then you play a couple of teams that are not on your level that you're just going to walk through. And then you got to play St. Louis. And then you play a couple, and that's the problem with MLS Next Pro. It's that it's a very unbalanced league, and next year it'll still be unbalanced. They'll add some good teams next year, some USL Championship teams, but you're still going to have that issue where there's going to be about 28 teams next year. There's going to be 14 good teams and 14 teams that are dog shit. And that's the problem, and that's going to take several years. There's some teams that are going to take years to figure out their methodology and their stuff, and it's just a watered down third division league right now. And so North Texas is going young. They're going to say, hey, this is going to be our U21 squad. We got a U19 squad. This is going to be U21. We're going to play. You're going to graduate from the U19 to U21, and there's still going to be that big gap between North Texas and FC Dallas, and there's getting out of USL League One widen that gap a little. But the team has to embrace it. They got to say, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah. Well, look, let's leave it there. It's been a long show. We've had a lot to talk about, some good clips. We do invite you all to subscribe. We're going to keep going through the offseason. We may not do every week, but it's because there may be some slow weeks. And,
we'll do it when there's some big, movements.
Yeah, with some good news. We'll definitely let y'all know. And also, I think we're going to be planning. I'm going to be planning to have some of our guys from the Twitter channel who are part of the supporters groups for FC Dallas just to come on and have a session to talk about their experience with FC Dallas and kind of put their voices out there and also let folks know kind of what the supporter groups are about and how that can be improved. So look for that kind of conversation.
Improved or grown, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So stay tuned, of course. Subscribe wherever you find podcasts. I'll be uploading the audio here in a little bit. And, of course, check out BigDSoccer.com for other good reading. And see you on Twitter. Good night, Jose.
Yeah, see you guys. Good night.